I am Etzion from Israel. Today is the 26th of April 2025. As usual, start with a musical piece from our wind band in Haifa. piece is called In the Forest of the King. We continue sharing the book of Genesis. Book of Genesis is dedicated for the creation of states of consciousness. This is a theme of creation which was given to humanity by the Avatar and Master Moses more than 3,000 years ago. Whatsoever Rabbi says in the God Speaks has been encapsulated in the book of Genesis. And there are other insights included, which not all of them include in Baba's teachings. It's a different version, but the principles are the same. As Baba himself said, that he didn't give anything new, keep on repeating the old teachings, trying to explain the fall of man. Fall of man, we decide to improve the cosmic band. This is the reason why I give you a musical piece. You can see a group of individuals working together with harmony under the leadership, the dictatorship of our beloved Maestro Shiri Kahana. And it is here we prove that human beings can work together, not because we are coerced or being paid, but because we love to produce some music. And what happened in the Garden of Eden, the fall of man, that one of us, enough the one person from 100 musicians to play in a chord, and one of them in the middle of the play will decide that he knows better and will change his tune. Then the whole thing will fall apart. Even if the other 99 will hold steady, just one person who breaks the whole energy, symphony, everything falls apart. Cannot be maintained. If there'll be 1,000 musicians and one of them will decide to play off beat, start to play something different, the whole thing falls apart. The whole, we call it mesh of vibrations will collide with each other, the whole thing will disintegrate. It's what happened in the Garden of Eden. We tried to improve it because we decided it's not good enough, that God's work is not perfect. God's work was not perfect for a reason. He knows that we will fill in the gap. This has been our responsibility. And we didn't understand it. And we don't understand it even till now. So what happened when we tried to improve? We ate of the tree of the knowledge, good and evil. Said to judge, this is good, this is bad, but what is? We don't have the vision, the understanding that what we do has consequences, which we don't understand. Whatever we complain about our past failures and past periods, even could be millions of years ago. Everything must come back to us, and we have to give thanks. And that's the only way to deal with this. Maybe one day we'll decide to reconstruct the spiritual circles and recreate the spiritual government on earth, which would adjust the karma of humanity and will lead the divine beings in the creation towards the goal, which is reunion with oneness. And this is the purpose of the book of Genesis. And then the book of Exodus, which is the Torah of Master Moses, and the Ten Commandments. The book of the Torah is a guide for the spiritual path. And the book of Exodus, the book of initiation. Meherabad amended that the Master Moses was true, he was sixth master, and all this episode of going out of Egypt, receiving the Torah was true. That's what Baba said. Continue reading the book of Genesis a little bit, then I'll show you some other stories. Last week we stopped here. The title is From Jacob to Israel. We come here to the most crucial part, the book of Genesis, in the attempt to reconstruct humanity. Why the name of Jacob was changed to Israel, as we will see later on. And then we see again and again that the fate of humanity rests on one person. We are going to learn what happened, what's the point of Jacob becoming Israel. And this is actually, as we know, Lord Abraham came to earth, the avatar, and we made a restart for humanity, put it back on spiritual path after we lost our way totally and became totally physical human beings worshipping gold, worshipping the minerals, and thus we place ourselves under the mineral kingdoms. And we went all the way down on the ladder of evolution. Instead of uplifting the entire creation, we went all the way down, we blocked the movement of the creation, and he has been causing a tremendous suffering for the entire cosmic creation. We are now entering the very process by which the foundation of the people of Israel was prepared. And these processes have been affecting us to this day. Jacob and his 4 wives gave birth to 12 sons. Benjamin the last, born when Jacob entered the land of Israel, and then Rachel died while giving birth. The name of Rachel is actually Rachel. Rachel is a she-sheep, a female sheep. Very significant. Chapter 29 in the book of Genesis. I'm reading also the translations. Actually, by the way, I'm making update of all these translations because all these translations are not correct. So I'm preparing a new version of this. Then Jacob went on his journey and came to the land of the children of the east. He went to the place which is between today's Syria and Iraq. And he looked. And behold, a well in the field, and lo, the 3 flocks of sheep lying there by it. For out of that well they watered the flocks, and the stone upon the well's mouth was great. And thither were all the flocks gathered, and they rolled the stone from the well's mouth and watered the sheep, and put the stone back upon the well's mouth in its place. And Jacob said unto them, My brethren, whence are ye? And they said, Of Haran are we. And he said unto them, Know ye Laban, the son of Nahor? And they said, We know him. And he said unto them, Is it well with him? And they say, It is well, and behold, Rachel his daughter cometh with the sheep. And he said, Lo, it is yet high day, neither is it time that the cattle should be gathered together. Water ye the sheep, and go and feed them. And they said, We cannot until all the flocks be gathered together. And they rolled the stone from the well's mouth. Then we water the sheep. While he was yet speaking with them, Rachel came with her father's sheep, for she tended them. And it came to pass, when Jacob saw Rachel, the daughter of Laban, his mother's brother, and the sheep of Laban, his mother's brother, that Jacob went near and rolled the stone from the well's mouth, and watered the flock of Laban, his mother's brother. And Jacob kissed Rachel, and lifted up his voice, and wept. And Jacob told Rachel that he was her father's brother, and that he was Rebekah's son. And she ran and told her father. And it came to pass, when Laban heard the tidings of Jacob, his sister's son, that he ran to meet him, and embraced him, and kissed him, and brought him to his house. And he told Laban all these things. And Laban said to him, Surely thou art my bone and my flesh. And he abode with him the space of a month. And Laban said unto Jacob, Because thou art my brother, shouldn't you therefore serve me for naught? Tell me, what shall thy wages be? Now Laban had 2 daughters. The name of the elder was Leah. The name of the younger was Rachel. And Leah's eyes were weak, but Rachel was of beautiful form and fair to look upon. And Jacob loved Rachel, and he said, I will serve thee 7 years, for Rachel thy younger daughter. And Laban said, It is better that I give her to thee, than that I should give her to another man. Abide with me. And Jacob served 7 years for Rachel, and it seemed unto him but a few days. For the love he had to her. Jacob said unto Laban, Give me my wife, for my days are filled, that I may go in unto her. And Laban gathered together all the men of the place, made a feast. And it came to pass in the evening, they took Leah, his daughter, and brought her to him. And he went in unto her. And Laban gave Zilpah, his handmaid, unto his daughter Leah for a handmaid. And it came to pass in the morning that, behold, it was Leah. And he said to Laban, What is it thou hast done unto me? Did not I serve with thee for Rachel? Wherefore then hast thou beguiled me? And Laban said, It is not so done in our place to give the younger before the firstborn. fulfill the week of this one, and we will give thee the other also for the service. Thou shalt serve with me yet 7 other years. And Jacob did so and fulfilled her week. And he gave him Rachel, his daughter, to wife. And Laban gave to Rachel his daughter Bilhah, his handmaid, to be her handmaid. And went in also unto Rachel. And he loved Rachel more than Leah, and served with him yet 7 other years. And the Lord saw that Leah was hated, and he opened her womb, but Rachel was barren, and Leah conceived and bore a son, and she called his name Reuben. She said, because the Lord hath looked upon my affliction. For now my husband will love me. Reuben means in Hebrew, Reuven, see the sun. To see the sun. And she conceived again and bore a son. And she said, because the Lord hath heard that I am hated, he hath therefore given me this son also. And she called his name Shimon. Well, it's Simon, so Simon, it's Shimon. And she conceived again, Shimon. Shimon is that she saw a man, something like this. Every Hebrew word has deep meaning, many meanings. And she conceived again, bore a son, and said, now this time will my husband be joined unto me, because I have borne him 3 sons. Therefore was his name called Levi. Levi is to follow in Hebrew. And she conceived again and bore a son, and she said, this time will praise the Lord. Therefore she called his name Judah. It actually should be Judah, not Judah. And she left off bearing. Judah is from thank, to praise, to give thanks. Todah in Hebrew. Yehudah is to give thanks. And when Rachel saw that she bore Jacob no children, Rachel envied her sister, and she said unto Jacob, give me children, or else I die. Those days, if you didn't give children, you were worthless. There was no meaning of your being at all. You have to multiply and fill the earth. And Jacob's anger was kindled against Rachel, and he said, am I in God's stead, who has withheld from thee the fruit of the womb? And she said, behold my maid, Bilhah, go in unto her, but she may bear upon my knees, and I also may be builded up through her. We saw it also, this pattern, with Abraham. Sarah was burned, also at that time, and she gave her husband, her maid, the Egyptian Hagar, and she bore the son Ishmael, the father of the Arab nation. And she gave him Bilhah, her handmaid, to wife. And Jacob went in unto her, and Bilhah conceived, and bore Jacob a son. And Rachel said, God hath judged me, and hath also heard my voice, and hath given me a son. Therefore called she his name Dan. Dan is from justice, from making, going to trial. We call it a judge, you used to call it Dayan. Din. Din in Hebrew and Arabic is the law also. is the root word for all these expressions. And Bilhah, Rachel's handmaid, conceived again. And bore Jacob a second son, and Rachel said, with mighty wrestlings have I wrestled with my sister and have prevailed. And she called his name Naphtali. Naphtali is twisted, is to twist. Because in Hebrew, in wrestle, it's hard to translate the Hebrew expressions to English. It's because his name should be wrestler, Naphtali. In Hebrew, I with my Naphtali, with my sister, which is wrestlement. Naphtali is wrestlement. When Leah saw that she had left off bearing, she took Zilpah, her handmaid, and gave her to Jacob to wife, and Zilpah, Leah's handmaid, bore Jacob a son. And Leah said, fortune is come. And she called his name God. That is also a name for fortune, for luck. And Zilpah, Leah's handmaid, bore Jacob a second son. And Leah said, happy am I, for the daughters will call me happy. And she called his name Asher. Asher is happiness in Hebrew. And Reuben went in the days of wheat harvest and found hand rakes in the field, and brought them unto his mother Leah. This kind of fruit which makes you more, it's a passion fruit. Then Rachel said to Leah, give me, I pray thee, of thy sons' mandrakes. And she said unto her, is it a small matter? Thou hast taken away my husband, and wouldest thou take away my son's mandrakes also? And Rachel said, therefore it shall lie with thee tonight for thy son's mandrakes. And Jacob came from the field in the evening, and Leah went out to meet him, and said, thou must come in unto me, for I have surely hired thee with my son's mandrakes. And he lay with her that night, and God hearkened unto Leah, and she conceived and bore Jacob a fifth son. And Leah said, God hath given me my hire, because I gave my handmaid to my husband. And she called his name Issachar. It's from remembrance, to remember. It's called Zikaron in Hebrew. And Leah conceived again and bore a sixth son to Jacob. And Leah said, God has endured me with a good jewelry. Now will my husband dwell with me, because I have borne him six sons. And she called his name Zebulun. Zebulun is to fertilize, make you wealthy. And afterwards she bore a daughter and called her name Dinah. And God remembered Rachel. And God hearkened to her and opened her womb. And she conceived and bore a son, and said, God has taken away my reproach. And she called his name Joseph, saying, the Lord add to me another son. Yosef is to add, להוסיף in Hebrew. It is the women, the mothers, who determine the names of the sons, and thus determine the fate of the tribes. Each name characterizes the characteristics of the child and its destiny. It was the four mothers who formed the basis for the restoration of the human race. That's why we are being told all this story. There was no need to give it so much detail unless there is a very deep spiritual reason behind all this. For formation of the initial spiritual circle. And each son who was born, the 12 sons eventually, had to reconstruct the first spiritual circles. It came to pass when Rachel had born Joseph that Jacob said unto Laban, send me away that I may go unto mine own place and to my country. Give me my wives, my children for whom I have served thee, and let me go, for thou knowest my service wherewith I have served thee. Now I'll skip all this because these two clever men started to bargain over the money, and Laban is trying to cheat Jacob, not to give him all the. He was working for his brother-in-law for actually more than 20 years. And actually Laban, who was a shrewd man, was trying to take advantage of Jacob and not to pay him, because the payment was with animals, sheep, goats, donkeys, etc. They didn't pay him money, but livestock. So they made some kind of a deal, and Jacob was using all kinds of presumably tricks, spiritual tricks. They agreed that either the sheep or animals with this kind of color, they have some signs. Then this will go to Laban, this will go to Jacob, and whatever they decided, always by some mystical force, it was turns that Jacob was winning. So what happened that Jacob became very wealthy, a very, very huge herd of goats and sheep. When the animals came to drink water, he placed before them the troughs where they kept water so they can come and drink, the animals. He put some various kind of wooden rods, and when the animals looked at the rods, they gave birth to their children, or whatever you call it, maybe children, goats or sheep, according to the deal he made with Laban. So Jacob was winning all the time. Jacob was puzzling deals with the sticks, giving the picture of what happened in the scene of paradise. There, when we fell from the consciousness of paradise, we hid among the trees, and just in their sheath. Is it here that Jacob, under divine providence, reverses the direction of things? It reminds me of Moses' staff, with which he supposedly performed miracles. The staff is Egyptian hieroglyphs, also performed miracles. This should be the magicians. Used to also to perform all kinds of manipulating spiritual process, what we call CDs. Scepters held by the kings and gods as symbols of authority and power. On the staff we lead and feel safer, we feel balanced and willing to use the rod as a weapon to keep out predatory animals and humans, which are often worse than predators. The description of Jacob's actions with Laban's sheep are puzzling. Torah is usually very concise, very precise. Why is the need to change the story of how Jacob managed to breed the flock by means that appeared to be acts of sorcery? The Creator does not say that he created blue skies and brown earth. If you go back to the first verses of Genesis, it say God created heaven and earth. You say created the blue heaven and brown earth. Good enough to say that Jacob worked all he could for Laban and was fairly rewarded. You see here a struggle between two cunning people, a kind of struggle for survival. Where does Jacob get the prescriptions for supernatural successes? We find nothing like this in the deeds of Abraham and Isaac. In my opinion, there is no doubt that something deeper is hidden here. For this, you have to study more elucidations. You have to delve into the mystical side of the Torah and the book of the Kabbalah and the book of the Zohar, the other books. But I didn't get to it. I'm not a mystic. And what I see while studying this book of Genesis and Exodus, I witnessed the deep wisdom behind all these stories, which are not always understood. So now what's happening, I'm going to read the whole thing, but the children became jealous that Jacob won so much of their father's inheritance. So they want to deprive him. And Jacob, he heard that he felt that that's it. It is not safe to stay there anymore. And he and his women decided to escape, to run away. And he's telling his women that he sees that Laban is unhappy with him, etc. And the women also were unhappy about all these situations if the father just simply sold them to somebody. The whole situation is not healthy. The two sisters were in bad terms. Rachel was envious of Leah, and Jacob's heart was with Rachel, and she didn't succeed all these years to gain his heart, even it's not saying here. But the two sisters were very good looking, and Leah was more feminine than Rachel. If I should see it, but I guess you know the famous actress Jane Fonda. Rachel has some resemblance to Jane Fonda, and Leah to Gina Lollobrigida, the Italian famous sex symbol. We don't see anywhere that Jacob is complaining in having these four ladies. He was quite content about this, but his heart was with Rachel. And this caused very serious problems, which never were resolved. Actually, this problem is the two women. Eventually brought about the failure of the children of Israel to reconstruct the spiritual circles. We will be dealing with it later on in the book of Exodus. The Lord says the sin of the children or the fathers continue until the fourth generation in here. Have to get out of this emotion and before this person, that person. It's quite saddening that such an advanced soul like Jacob, so I believe according to the story, was sixth plane master, sixth plane. But then when he becomes Israel, he achieves God realization. That's what my understanding at least. And he somehow, even this advanced soul, and had lapses. He made the he didn't understand fully his own spiritual responsibility for creating the basis for the reconstruction of humanity. That's why this story is so prolonged. And Rachel and Leah answered and said unto him, is there yet any portion of inheritance for us in our father's house? Are we not accounted by him strangers? For he has sold us and has also quite devoured our price. For all the riches which God has taken away from our father, that is ours, and our children's. Now then, whatsoever God has said unto thee, do. Jacob rose up and set his sons and his wives upon the camels, and he carried away all his cattle and all his substance, which he had gathered, the cattle of his getting, which he had gathered in Padan Aram, to go to Isaac his father unto the land of Canaan, etc. So they ran away. Jacob outwitted Laban the Aramean, in that he told him not that he fled. So they just ran away, he and his wives. So he fled with all that he had, and he rose up and passed over the river, and set his face toward the mountain of Gilead, the river, one of the rivers in today's Syria. If it's Gilead, maybe the river is being called today Yabok. It's a border between Syria and Jordan today, these countries. Today there were not real borders, but checkpoints of the local ruler or the king placed in order to squeeze some percentage from the passers-by. It was told Laban on the third day that Jacob was fled, and he took his brethren with him and pursued after him 7 days' journey, and he overtook him in the mountain of Gilead. Gilead today is the northern part of the kingdom of Jordan, on the other side of the Jordan River. We can see it from the side of the current state of Israel. And God came to Laban the Aramean in a dream of the night and said unto him, take heed. They said, thou speak not to Jacob either good or bad. Laban came up with Jacob. Now Jacob had pitched his tent in the mountain, and Laban with his brethren pitched in the mountain of Gilead. They were stationed on top of two hills so they could see each other. So Laban has the first argument. Jacob, and he's telling him that God came to him at night. Otherwise, saying like this, "It is in the power of my hand to do you hurt, but the God of your father spoke unto me yesternight, saying, Take heed to thyself that thou speak not to Jacob either good or bad." Still he speaks with him good and bad. And that thou art surely gone, because thou so longest after thy father's house. Wherefore hast thou stolen my goats? Goats? Jacob answered and said to Laban, there was a fight, for I said, let's now. Just a minute, I have to respond. Okay, the whole story goes, Laban was chasing Jacob and his children and flock, etc. And they somehow came to terms and made a covenant. Now come, let us make a covenant, I and thou, and let it be for witness between me and thee, the God of Abraham, the God of Nahor, the God of their father, judge betwixt us. Jacob swore by the fear of his father Isaac. He tells us some, a little bit. Deep stories tells us what is behind the scenes. The patriarchs, and here Jacob, are constantly attentive to the guiding voice of the supreme beings. They do not pretend to fix the world by themselves. On the one hand, they constantly take responsibility even for the failures. And listen humbly to the corrective voice of guidance with endless love and patience. We see all the time that the process of rehabilitating humanity involves constant struggles between the forces that aspire to return humanity to its intended course and the forces that aspire to preserve the current state that the earth will, with all its gifts, is the purpose of creation. So we'll stop here until next week. Still we didn't come to the story. We are reaching to me, it's the main episode, one of the main episodes of the book of Genesis, when Jacob reaches the state of Israel. His name was changed to Israel. You can read the stories with your own Bible if you wish. I will try to explain later on. Just a minute again. Now, this week, we commemorated what we call the Holocaust Day, where 6 million Jews were exterminated by Nazi Germany in Europe between 1939 to 1945. I, of course, don't know anything about 6 million. I couldn't count everything. There are statistics and numbers of the people who lived in the then Europe and who remained, who survived. But my parents, who managed to escape from the then Poland, it's a nick of time, which was 1934. The rest of the people there who didn't escape, they're all exterminated. You know what happened? Because we had survivors, and my family, headed by my father, they collected all the materials and made a memorial book for their little town. I'll bring a few points of this. This is a little town, Oshmane at that time. It was in Poland, then it was moved to Lithuania. It's about 50 kilometers from Vilnius. I think. Let's go just a minute. I can show you a copy. This is a book. My folks said they prepared. Those days. It's a great book. Memory of their family, etc. This being a large book. Partially Hebrew, partially Yiddish. With all the names that they could collect. Those days they spoke Yiddish. And this is a remembrance in Yad Vashem Holocaust Memorial in Jerusalem. And, the family from our family relatives and friends in the United States translated it into English and they placed it online so we can look at it. This little town was about between 5,000 to 10,000 people. It was established about 1,000 years ago. Jews came there about between 400, 600 years ago. The kings, one of the kings of Poland wanted to improve the state of Poland, and he sent messages to the people in Europe, so whomsoever is coming to Poland with a profession will receive some large tract of land. I was told that we had a private property, was bought with full money, about 1 square kilometer. like a town. I don't know what the size of Meherabad, maybe something like this. A kilometer, it takes you to walk about 15, 20 minutes each side. You can feel it out. I think it's 3/4 of a mile, if I'm not wrong. So this is a memorandum book for this community. And there's not much to offer, but what I could say about this, since we don't understand why all these horrible things going on our planet. Once I searched when the most ancient murder happened, and I found that scientists discovered the skull aged 450,000 years ago. The obvious signs that it was the forehead was completely shattered by a pick. Man was definitely murdered because this didn't look like an accident. And we definitely have found graveyards of human remains who were killed in battle already, I think, 8,000 or 12,000 years ago. And 20,000 years ago, because you could see that people were cut to pieces by machetes or some weapons, discovered the skeleton with arrowheads, etc. This war on Earth is a result of our discarding the Garden of Eden, that we deliberately destroy the spiritual circles. And the phenomenon of war, this, what I have learned under the supervision of Baba, the Avatar, while I went through many, many wars in Israel, eventually understood the purpose of war was to destroy sanskars. This is the article, Jewish farmers in Oshman. This is my father's. My father wrote this article. I don't know what it is here. What did it? Never mind. Skip it. What I understood in this life, all of us want peace, of course. This is what's going on is total insanity. All of us could have lived in the world, in the Middle East, very well. There won't be one single poor person on earth. A tremendous amount of money all over the planet is being wasted on defense and security. And there's no defense and no security anywhere. Everybody is concerned and worried. Who knows what's going to be if you wake up in the morning. And the war is an indication, it's a mirror before us, as spiritual people, that we are not online. There's no way to stop the wars. We will not reconstruct spiritual circles, which is supposed to form the spiritual government of advanced souls, who would balance the karma of humanity. So the last resort to destroy sanskars and do acute suffering. And this is what happens in war, as I witnessed the destruction of sanskars while I was going to wars under Baba's directives. And later on, while I was working for him, and he taught me how to erase sanskars. And I slowly over the years, I developed some sensitivity for this. And when we ask how come the avatar allows such things, so the option, as I understood, he hints it more or less. But the option it's very easy to stop the wars. This is to erase humanity from the surface of Earth or to cause paralaya. And this was prevented by Yeshua, we called Jesus, about 2,000 years ago, when he sacrificed himself, he took on himself the karma of humanity, not in order to forgive sins, but to keep the door of opportunity open so we can continue reincarnate on the planet. Because without a reincarnation, process of reincarnation, we cannot advance, we cannot consume old sanskara, develop new. We're supposed to develop sanskaras and bring us to the goal. There's the natural and non-natural sanskaras. And the natural, what is the real good binding sanskaras is to bound ourselves to the Lord. When I surrender to the Lord, I became totally subservient to Him. It's one and only sanskara that we should be attached to, because this will bring us eventually to total freedom, total wiping out of all our sanskars, which prevent us from realizing the goal and attaining the goal. And so all what left to us is to leave this world alone. I'm sorry to say again and again, people are so close to, came so close to Baba, keep on judging the world. You judge yourselves, and unfortunately, you might lose the benefits of this advent, which, to my understanding, is to stay from now on in the orbit of the divine love, the avatar, and all of us, all humanity, entitled, deserve to join the circle, the aura, the divine aura of divine love. And I understood that the only condition that will not harbor any grudge, no hatred whatsoever against anyone. Thank you very much. See you next week.